Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock, and we are going to call our meeting to order. This time, I'm going to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing as we hear the singing of the National Anthem by Ben Brown.
United States of America, to the flag of the United States of America, to the rock, which is sin, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We want to thank Ben for what he did for the Pennsylvania School Board State Conference. He had the opportunity to sing, and we wanted to share that with you this evening. So thank you, Ben. Ms. Evans, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Franzik.
Present.
Mr. Henderson.
Present.
Ms. Ianetti.
Present.
Dr. Levinovitz.
Present.
Mr. Rapsky. Ms. Sherpier.
Present.
Mr. Sirota.
Present.
Mr. Wallach.
Present.
Dr. Davis.
Present.
All present. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have our Student Government Association report. Ms. Joyce Young.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. This past week, our high school celebrated a highly energetic and passionate Spirit Week. It was a great return to normalcy with much anticipated events such as alcove decorating, dress-up days, pep rally, and the coronation ball to top it all off. For dress-up days, some of our themes included Pajama Day, Sports Day, and Beach Day, which all included over 75% participation, widely garnering the attention of our students. As for cans and coin collection, collectively we gathered around 805 cans and a total of $1,800 in coins. Each grade worked arduously to compete and obtain the honor of being the most spirited class. However, not only was the competition entertaining, but students were unified under the efforts of raising funds for tornado relief, as well as local charities such as Abby's Bakery. As for coronation, even though the dance was held under a tent, students were excited as ever to join their friends and peers on the dance floor for the first time in 2 years this past Saturday. We thank all of our teachers, staff, and volunteers who made these events possible, even in the difficult circumstances. Even with all of the exciting activities, our students are still managing to balance their academic responsibilities. With the end of the first marking period right around the corner, our sophomores and juniors were able to complete the PSAT a few weeks prior on October 18th. Summer culminating presentations and reports are actively continuing, and our seniors have been able to accomplish so many different jobs, participate in community efforts, and design innovative creations to prepare them for graduation. With our seniors working hard to apply to colleges and underclassmen diligently participating in their courses, there's no doubt each and every student will successfully complete their first marking period of being back to in-person instruction. Along with the closing of the marking period is the end of our fall season for sports, some including girls tennis, volleyball, and field hockey, which are closing the season out soon. And we're able to celebrate thrilling senior days. Our boys water polo team also had an amazing win this past Saturday, qualifying them as the first ever UD boys team in history to go to states. Congratulations on all their hard work, and we will continue to cheer for their success at states. It is clear that our students have constructively started and completed their adjustment and return to school, and we will continue to do our best to make this year a memorable one. Thank you all for listening, and have a night as pleasant as our first marking period. Thank you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate those reports. It brings us up to date. And we have heard so many positive things about the week and Spirit Week and the coronation and everything. So we just want to congratulate all of our students for what they've been doing to make the best out of some difficult situations and just really being able to find the joy of being back in school for a time. So Dr. Yanni, can you please give us your superintendent's report?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. So I want to start with the Sense of Belonging survey. Empowering all students to realize their personal levels of success remains a core purpose of our school district. We are working with our students and students from across Montgomery County to learn about the students' lived experiences in our schools. Our students and students from 7 other school districts are going to complete the Belonging survey called the PSSN. The survey was developed by Carol Goodnow, a psychologist, and has been translated into many languages and used all across the world. It's used exclusively to measure students' sense of belonging in their school community. The questions consist of Likert scale questions, so strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and with another option in there in the middle for no response. The survey is anonymous. Students will not be asked to give their name, and their participation in the survey is voluntary. Mr. Schultz and Mr. Ortiz shared information about the survey in their recent school-based communications to their respective communities. The survey data will serve as a context for the work that we're doing across the county. It will also serve as a basis for the work that we're going to be doing in the Superintendent's Advisory Team. And it will also be part of what informs the district's strategic action plans as we go through that process later this winter. The community should know that we'll share the data, a summary of the data, at an upcoming Education Committee meeting. Each October, we celebrate National Principals Month, and it's an opportunity for district leaders, elected officials, parents and guardians, students, teachers, staff, everyone, to celebrate and honor incredible principals for their visionary leadership and tireless pursuit of success for each individual student. We thank Mr. Peter Alston, Mr. Rob Corcoran, Dr. Jason Hamer, Mr. Sean McAleer, Dr. Dan Ortiz, and Mr. Bob Schultz for their dedication to our students and to the Upper Dublin School District. In terms of student success outside of the classroom, as Joyce mentioned, for the first time in school history, the boys water polo team qualified for the state tournament. They defeated Reading 14-10 in the first round. They also defeated Wissahickon, and the team will travel, they'll be at North Penn the weekend of November 5th for state, so we wish them well. Our football team is headed to districts after defeating Council Rock North 40-0. And we were surprised by the Council Rock North community. They did a red out at the game, and they did a fundraiser for our displaced students. Our marching Cardinals have brought home 2 first place recognitions in recent weeks. It should be noted that this year they have a new director, so learning from a new director and not having a field to practice on as we found space makes these two first place wins that much more special. We'll share additional information about student success in our News from the Nest newsletter, which will be distributed sometime around the end of the day tomorrow. Tonight, the board is being asked to approve the Comprehensive Planning Steering Committee names. As discussed in my presentation last month, the composition of the steering committee is articulated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. The district's comprehensive plan will be completed over the next few months, and there will be an opportunity for community input for the final plan. In November, we're also going to be putting out a call for volunteers for our strategic action planning process. This is the process that will involve many more stakeholders and volunteers. We have a special acknowledgement tonight. Consummate school directors are described as ethical, principled individuals with deep desire to serve their communities. They believe in the value of public schools and local control of public education for the benefit of all students. School districts are expected to offer more services along with world-class instruction, oftentimes with limited resources. These expectations provide a tremendous challenge for school directors, the unpaid volunteers who give up their time to contribute to the schools and communities they serve. Schools' continued efforts to provide high-quality, continuous education to all students during the pandemic further highlights the key role school directors play in educating our children. For more than 35 years, PSBA has been recognizing the contributions of dedicated local school directors with long-term service. The honor roll is the association's way of thanking those individuals who exemplify leadership by giving unselfishly of their time and talents for the betterment of public schools, serving students across this great Commonwealth. This evening, we're pleased to acknowledge Mr. Mark Sirota for 8 years of service to the Upper Dublin Board of School Directors, and we present him with a certificate for his service from PSB. The township definitely had a busy weekend. The coronation ball was held on Saturday evening, and the UD Strong Carnival ended its run. A good time was had by all, and I would like to thank our high school leadership team and all the staff that were present for the event here for Coronation Ball. We'd also like to thank the Upper Dublin Police Department for their support with two major events separated by a building happening. Everything went really well, and kudos to our students for not only having a great time, but doing it safely with great behavior. It was great to see so many students come out to the Coronation Ball. We're in the final stages of scheduling a vaccine clinic for our students ages 5 to 11. We will communicate details in our News from the Nest newsletter that will be out tomorrow. And some great news for Sandy Run and for Fort Washington. Sandy Run Middle School was ranked number 32 of 939 middle schools in Pennsylvania by US News. And Fort Washington was ranked number 17 of 1,752 elementary schools in Pennsylvania, ranking them in the top 3 and 2% across the Commonwealth. So we congratulate everyone that does their part to make sure that our schools are as excellent as they can be. And that concludes my report, Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Yanni. There was a lot there. I know that you'll put that out again and reiterate much of what you said in the communication to the community. At this time, we are going to have our first community input. We ask that when you come to the mic that you please state your name and where you reside in the district. Ms. Evans will be our timekeeper for the 4-minute limit. So if you would like to comment at this time on agenda items only, please proceed to the mic. Okay, seeing no one, we'll continue with our agenda. Mr. Lepton, are there any announcements or communications?
There are no announcements this evening.
We do have an action item regarding our minutes for the September 20th legislative meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Are there any opposed? The minutes are approved. Also, included for an information item, we have the September committee minutes. The following minutes were approved by the committee on September 8th, the Finance Committee, September 13th, the Education Committee, as well as on September 13th, the Policy Committee minutes were approved by the committees, and they have been included as an information item. Mrs. Sherpier, can you please present the Education Committee curriculum?
Yes. For the Education Committee, we have under item 8. Item A is information as usual, and then items B through F, I think can be taken together. And so I would like to approve or do the motion to approve those as listed.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve all the items, B through
F.
F. So, are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Ms. Sherpier, we also have from the Education Committee, Student Services recommendations.
Yes, and there we have items A through G. And again, I would propose that we have a motion to accept them all as stated.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. These items were discussed on our Education Committee meeting, but are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you. Mr. Sirota, Finance Committee recommendations.
Thank you. We have 12 items under the Finance Committee recommendations tonight. I'm going to break them up just a little bit. First, I'd like to make a motion to approve items A and B, which are both ratifications of items for we prepare for our school management tornado.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
These were discussed at the committee meeting. Are there any additional questions on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting items A and B, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you.
So next I'd like to take, I'm going to just jump down and take items K and L together. These were discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, but I want to take this opportunity to thank Parents Supermarket for their donation. These are effectively ratifications of a process to accept that money into the general fund and then transfer it to the food service fund where it was, where the donation was intended to be spent.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Any additional questions? Again, it was discussed at the committee level. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And next up, we have all of these items, with the exception of item G, our regular monthly payments item, were discussed. I'd like to make a motion to approve items C through J with the exception of item F. I'm going to fill out item F and do that one last. So it's C, D, E, G, H, I, and J.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Henderson? Any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor of accepting C through J, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Item F is the last item, and I pulled that out separately at a request from Mr. Henderson, who's a member of the committee, for a little bit of additional discussion. So in order to facilitate that discussion, I'll make the motion. Assuming you get the second, then I'd like to, I'll pass it over to Mr. Henderson to kick off the discussion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for item F, the purchase of 577 passenger buses. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Are there
so,
questions?
Mr. Henderson asked to facilitate the discussion on this. I did appreciate the presentation we had last week from Mr. Robbins. It's really the best look we've had at a future transition to electric buses with electric drivetrains. And Mr. Henderson was also prompted to do some additional research on that. And Mike, you want to present what you found?
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. I did want to give the board and the community a little bit of an update on what was presented on Wednesday by Mr. Robbins. In terms of the electric bus option that was put on the table, there's just some additional information that I wanted to share. In terms of the age of technology, the electric buses have been around since the 1970s. It's about approximately a 50-year technology. So we're in about the 7th or 8th iteration of that technology. In terms of the expense, on the face, it looks very expensive. Electric buses, and it's similar to what you see with electric cars or with hybrid cars for those people who purchase them. The initial cost, the upfront cost is significantly higher than the fuel combustion-based technology. Most electric buses run in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, while the gas-powered buses that we're looking at are $90,000. However, that takes into, of course, these are business folks who want to sell a lot of electric buses, and they know that there are a tremendous amount of rebate and grant programs that are existing, that are well-funded, and that have strong backing by state and federal government. Here in Pennsylvania, we have just in PA, we specifically have 3 programs. We have the Truck and Bus Fleet Grant Program that targets 6 or more vehicles and covers 50% or up to $150,000 per vehicle for a purchase price. We also have a second one, which is called the On-Road Rebate Program, which funds up to 5 vehicles at 60% up to $150,000 per vehicle. And then the third, now that's with state funds, and the third program, Pennsylvania State Clean Vehicle Program. This is funded by the federal government, the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act of 2010, DERA, which covers 45% of diesel replacement at no vehicle limit. So what they've done is the electric bus providers have priced the buses so that when you take into account the 45, 50, 60% rebates that are available just with these programs, it gets it pretty close to the cost of the gas-powered buses. And in addition, what the providers do is they allow you to what they call stack the grants and rebate programs, which can bring it down further. I didn't have a lot of time to do the research, but going to go ahead and share that. In terms of the distance of the electric buses, I looked at 3 different buses. Line Buses has a range of 155 miles per charge. Bluebird buses have 120 miles per charge. And Thomasville buses has a range of 135 miles per bus. If you look at the history of the buses that we are trading out right now, the gas-powered buses, they're all about 16 years, they're all about 160,000 miles. It's about 10,000 miles per week, per year, about 398 miles per week, about 79 miles per day. So the range of 125 to 155 miles per charge that more than covers the daily requirement for those buses. In terms of the charge, depending on the charger system that we purchase, it takes 3 to 8 hours, depending on, again, on the charging system that we purchase. And in terms of the, obviously, electric buses are cleanest in emissions, but there are also additional value points that I want to bring out. First, there's no fuel charge. So just to give a back of the envelope, if we were to swap out 40 buses at 10 gallons per week at 26 weeks, per 26 school weeks per year at $3 a gallon, that saves us $32,000 a year. And electric buses also, in terms of repair, maintenance, and operation costs, they are 30 to 40% of the cost of maintaining internal fuel combustion buses. Now, why is that? Because there's no oil, there's no filters, there's no spark plugs, there's no transmission, and there's no drivetrain. So what I'd like to encourage us is, I realize that for long distance bus trips, obviously, we're going to need some type of a hybrid fleet. We're going to need some gas buses to be able to take the football team or the marching band or whomever to state college or competition or something like that. That would exceed the distance that you get with the electric buses. But at the same time, I wanted to strongly encourage us to transition as many of our fuel combustion buses as possible so that we can get all these savings, and also to integrate that into our plan for transportation so that we design this technology into our upcoming transportation center and provide a clean fuel alternative for our bus fleet going forward. So that's, Mr. Roder, I appreciate you giving me some time to share this with the board and the community.
Thanks. So let me just see if anyone has any comments or questions about that before I wax philosophical stand.
Yeah, Mike, thank you for your information there. I just want to add, the technology's moving so fast. I mean, Hertz today ordered 100,000 electric vehicles from Tesla. So it's like 2 weeks ago, wasn't there. That's a game changer. I mean, when I was township commissioner, we were the first township in southeastern Pennsylvania to go semi-automation with the trash collection, recycle collection. That was only 2007. And everybody's used to that now. We were the first township to commingle recycled materials. So, being on the cutting edge, we will be first in line. And I think that's a great idea. Who knows? They can have the sound barriers. One turn line could be two-sided solar panels. They could beacon over them, then charge the batteries for free. So that's not going to be tomorrow, but that could be 5 years, 10 years. So I think Chris needs to come back with another plan or some other idea to get this thing moving.
Before I turn it back to you, Mark, because I know you're presenting these recommendations. Right now, we do have a motion on the floor regarding the purchase of the 577 passenger buses. We want to thank Mr. Henderson for his for providing the information regarding the electric buses. I believe you said that we obviously will be looking at a hybrid situation because we're going to need some buses to be utilized when we need to travel to further distances. So right now, what the board needs to consider is if we move forward with getting some new buses now because we have buses that need to be replaced, but ask the administration to put together a plan for us to move forward with purchasing some electric buses. So that is what's on the floor right now. Any other comments?
Yeah, so to follow up on that, that was where I was headed next, Darlene. The recommendation from the administration that we discussed last week was to continue with our standard 5 buses a year replacement cycle to replace 5 old diesel buses with new gasoline buses. And the reason for doing it now, and this is something we normally do in the springtime, the reason for doing it now is because, and Mr. Let me just make sure I have this right, we have an opportunity to lock in prices now, even though the purchase would not happen until next fiscal, because we know that prices are going up and not by just a little bit. So it's an opportunity to do that now. So really the question before us is, we don't need to do this, to make this, to pass this motion to approve bus purchases now, but if we don't, and we end up wanting to buy gas buses after all next year anyway, we're gonna pay more for them. So really the question is, should we lock in the prices now and buy 5 buses for next year, and also pursue a plan to buy, to transition toward electric buses as quickly as reasonably possible, and we can talk about exactly what that means. Or do we want to put off this purchase for now and do that research before locking in these prices? That's the trade-off that we're discussing tonight.
Dr. Young.
I want to make just a couple points clear for folks that might not have been here on Wednesday night or might be listening. So the administration agrees that we need to look to the future and we need to look at electric fleets. Or as Mr. Henderson said, some hybrid of such, because we do have long trips. The one caution that I want to just remind everybody, it's not really a caution, it's more a reality. Our current facility that we rent, we do not have the ability, we do not have the authority to put the infrastructure in that building. So yes, the administration, we are behind moving towards electric buses, but we are going to need then the facility that either has the infrastructure or that we can build to put the infrastructure in. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to have functioning buses. But I just want to make sure that no one thinks that the administrative team is against the electric buses.
Right, sure. And so, to be clear, and when I was talking about the trade-off that we're discussing tonight, we probably can't get the infrastructure built in the current facility in the time frame we're talking about, and we probably don't want to, because if we're not going to stay there, we'd have to build it twice, and therefore pay for doing it twice.
I see.
So my recommendation is that we move ahead with the purchase as we discussed last week, and also, as Darlene said, let's ask the administration to draft us a plan. Let's talk, what are the steps necessary to get us to a partial hybrid, to a hybrid fleet? What roadblocks can we start clearing now so that when we are ready to move, we can move as quickly as possible? Let's get to the point where the finances make sense. Electric buses are only going to come down in price, I would expect. So there will be a point to do it. And let's not decide then when they come down in price to start moving. Let's start moving now so that we can buy them when we're ready to buy them. That's my recommendation. Again, the recommendation on the table is to move forward with the purchase of 5 buses, and I'd like to.
I think we have 2 board members that still want to comment.
Jen.
Dr. Yanni kind of addressed it when I was thinking about that charging station, where we can't put it in our current location. So in the immediate future, the electric bus situation doesn't work. But also, I would ask the administration, just like you researched and found these buses at the right price at the right time, these things that like Henderson discovered, these grants, these rebates, I hope that we will be looking into those so we can get cost savings on electric buses too in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Sheffield.
Yeah, I do agree that the current 5 is something we need to do now for a cost and savings perspective, but certainly the idea of moving forward and not be last in line but ahead of the time for the future, I think is really important. So I would support the motion as it is.
I see 2 more hands. Mr. Henderson.
Yeah, Mr. Dr. Davis and Mrs. Sirota, I meant to also mention that it would be great if we could revisit this maybe in February timeframe to have a plan, an initial plan in place to share with the board and the community in terms of how we transition to a clean alternative. One of the items that our community members have highlighted when we've had discussion previously about the transportation center is the health impact of diesel fuel buses. So moving to a hybrid fleet of maybe 10 or 15 gas-powered buses and 35 or 40 electric buses would definitely interest. Thank you.
Yes, what we did in Upper Dublin, again, when I was commissioner, we built a regional recycling center right off of Fitzware Town Road that we partnered with 6 or 7 other townships. And we built this thing, and everybody shared the facility, everybody helped pay for the facility. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to partner with other school districts, maybe the township, and build a facility for charging buses. This is what you have to do. The grants are there. We got the grants for retrofitting the trash trucks to 7-mile elevation. We were the first. Let's be first in line, not scared of line.
All right, I don't see any additional hands or comments. We do have the motion on the floor. I would also like to just, reiterate, and several members of the board have suggested that the administration bring a plan back to us for a finance committee meeting, and so that we can start moving in that direction. Currently, there's a motion on the floor to purchase the 577 passenger buses. Are there any final questions on the motion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of purchasing 577 passenger buses, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed. Okay, thank you.
Is that Ms. Francis?
That's it for finance.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. Next, we have our personnel report, Dr. Levinowitz.
Good evening. I'd like to make a motion to approve all 3 items under the personnel report tonight. Item A, a contract addendum with Kelly Services. Item B, personnel report. Item C, the appointment of outside counsel or independent investigator.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. Mrs. Frantic, Policy Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. This evening, we have items A and B. The first item A is I'd like to make a motion to approve the second readings of the policies. 006, 117, 137, 138, and 200, all of which were discussed. Thank you to Mr. Wallach, who conducted the policy committee meeting in my absence, and the policy committee. So I did make the motion in there. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, we have a first motion and a second. Are there any questions? These are all discussed at the policy meeting, as she indicated. Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And now I have item B. This is just an affirmation of the first readings of policies 201, 202, and 215, which will be moved along in our process of the future policy committee meetings. A motion to affirm.
I'll second.
Okay, we have the motion to affirm our first readings of 201, 202, and 215. Any questions on that motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we also have other business, Mr. Wallace.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. We have 3 items of other business this evening. We'll take them all together. A is the approval of our superintendent's goals. Dr. Yanni has spoken to us about that. Item B is the approval of the comprehensive planning steering committee, and Dr. Yanni has also spoken about that planning process to us as well. Item C is something we haven't heard about, but is something we do from time to time. It's to approve new members of the Educational Advisory Committee. And there are 3 members to be approved to the committee this evening: Jennifer Anderson, Phil Caldwell, and Abby Mokel. And if they are so approved, we would like to thank them for their service to the committee. So I'll make a motion to approve items A, B, and C.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, any questions to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Included are the liaison committee reports. Again, that's an informational item. I do want to thank all of our board members that serve on these committees and have input, because they go beyond just our school district. Some of them are countywide and statewide as well. So I want to thank you for your service there. Mr. Diaz, do you have a solicitor?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. The solicitor's report this evening is Sunshine Act announcements. The board has had 2 executive sessions since the last public meeting. The first executive session was on October 14th. And the topic of that agenda was a personnel investigation. And the board also had an executive session prior to tonight's public meeting to discuss the items that have appeared on the personnel agenda a few months ago, and also to receive information on but not to deliberate 2 confidential student matters. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we are up to our final community input session of the evening. Again, we ask that you state your name and where you reside in the district. And Ms. Evans, as always, will be our timekeeper for the 4-minute time limit. If you would like to speak, please proceed to the mic at this time.
Jenny Vitella Ambler. Thank you, Michael. I love all that information. I wish we had it at the finance meeting. And might I suggest it totally ties into a transportation facility that is obviously not everybody agrees on at $7.8 million. Might we suggest having maybe a community group like we do with the Stadium Project, because there's a lot of pieces that go into this in terms of the facility, where the $3.6 million went originally for the bus depot that we didn't get, the amount of costs every year to rent that facility we have, and other options we have in the industrial park, along with electrical and all that and all the grant. It seems like a pretty big project that I don't think we can necessarily accomplish just in finance meeting, and certainly not in legislative meeting. Also, the finance reports, and I'm still curious about the $76,000 reduction, or not $76,000, $76,000 assessment reduction that says commercial property. It's a 380 Georgetown Road, which is a house. And then I don't remember talking about this outside counsel and independent investigator at the previous committee meeting. Is that because it's confidential? Just wondering. Thanks.
Hi everybody, my name is Erin Stein from Washington. Just want to say congrats to our boys water polo team. I was there this weekend, it was awesome and super exciting. And I think it was even more remarkable since they didn't have a pool to swim in. And what great neighbors Wissahickon has been to us to let them use their pool for us. It was sad that we didn't them, but. I wanted to talk tonight about something that I brought up back in September. It seems to still be an ongoing problem. The lack of any sort of virtual education for our quarantine students. It's something that parents who have students at home quarantining keep reaching out and really are finding the answers as to why there isn't a more structured virtual option for the kids that are quarantined. Doesn't seem to be a big problem unless where it seems to be the biggest problem in the case of when a sibling is positive, the other sibling then has to quarantine for 21 days. That can mean a great amount of school lost, and some of these kids are coming from already having to be virtual due to the tornado. So it's going into the winter months, it's November, almost November, and I think the consensus of the community is it's a little bit frustrating as to why we still haven't been given a solid answer as to why this is still happening. One other comment I had was, I'm wondering if, and I apologize if I've missed this, I haven't seen it anywhere, if there is any, when parents will be allowed back in school. I know that we're at a high submission rate, and we had to modify. I believe we're at a substantial rate now. I recently wanted to meet with my son's guidance counselor to speak to him about college, and was denied, and as you can imagine, it's just not the same. And that's just one example of many of parents really needing to be a part of their child's school career. And I just wanted to see, is there a timeline? Is there, I don't know, a chart or something? Because I know parents are eager to be back in the schools, and even if it's slowly, I understand it might have to be a slow entering, but in cases such as mine or such as GIP meetings or IEP meetings, it's very different to be in person than it is to be on a Zoom or a phone call. And I think that as parents, you guys will understand that, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? We do have one written comment that was submitted, and I'm going to ask Mr. Piazza to read that.
Thank you. Yes, the written comment comes from Andy Thomas from Moreland. The comment reads, can you please resume holding all Upper Dublin meetings via Zoom or Skype? Many of us parents are shuttling kids to sports and activities in the evenings, and it's not possible to attend in person. During the shutdown, the meetings were hosted online, and I was able to listen in from my car or wherever I was. I know that many of my neighbors feel the same way. They are interested in the discussions but can't attend in person. Thanks.
Thank you. So I will close community input at this time. Before I turn it over to Dr. Yanni, I would sort of agree with what Ms. Vitella said regarding personnel issue. They are confidential, and that is why you haven't heard about it previously in any meetings. So, Dr. Yanni.
I'll answer some of the questions, and then I'll also invite Mr. Hoffman to the microphone as well. So let's start with when parents will be permitted back in school. So we do have a chart. It goes out in our weekly update, and it goes by transmission level, and then elementary, middle school, and high school. So when we're in low transmission, visitors and volunteers during the day are permitted across all levels. Moderate, middle school and high school, not at the elementary until the kids are vaccinated, so hopefully that's going to be a reality in the next couple of weeks. And then when we're in substantial and high, obviously we're not permitting volunteers or visitors during the school day. Mr. Hoffman?
Yes, regarding quarantine instruction for our students, the sibling quarantine instruction is the piece that has been causing the most disruption to the typical quarantine instruction that's occurring. So our principals and teachers have been working on options, again, sticking to the 3 pillars, which is what work do I need to do, where do I find that work, and what do I do for help. For those extended absences, our teachers have been working with parents and students to provide some sort of live instruction, whether that's one-on-one, on a small group, guided reading for our elementary students, joining some of their peers virtually for instruction that is occurring at our secondary level, or meeting during collaboration, office hours, ARP, et cetera. So it's a combination, it's a hybrid, and teachers and principals are working to best provide the flexible option that meets the needs for the families.
In our collaboration with the Montgomery County Office of Public Health, they changed the isolation quarantine mandates once secondary students were vaccinated. They will be making a change once the elementary students are vaccinated. In the newsletter that will go out tomorrow, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to put the date in there when we'll do the first shot and then the second shot. And we'll also put in there the times during the day that we'll be able to vaccinate students, because parents or guardians are required to be with their children, unlike when we were vaccinating our older students. Regarding Zoom, the community member that reached out that wanted to listen, her comment specifically talked about listening in her car. We'll make sure that she is signed up for listserv, because we are live streaming. So utilizing Zoom in this setting, there would have to be a retrofit of the sound system. The location of our meetings is still strategic because of the COVID-19 mitigation measures, and we are still allowing the submission of pre-submitted comments.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from any of the board members?
There's a question about, on the finance report, the assessment reduction for services. Do you know what the answer to that one is? No? All right, so we'll have to come back with that. That's all.
Ms. Sherkman?
Yeah, I just want to get some clarification on the comment that the parents were excluded from meeting with counselors. I am assuming that in-person meeting, and a counselor meeting, and an IEP and TIP meeting, two of the.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the board?
I have one really.
Mr. Sherrill?
I just wanted to highlight that, so the health and safety plan has, as Dr. Young pointed out, a number of places where community transmission level is one of the major determinants in what we do here in school. And so for those who are interested in getting back into the schools, for those who are interested in minimizing quarantines and all of those other things, we all can do our part to help. And I know we can't, there's no magic bullet here, but I just want to encourage the community to continue to be vigilant about COVID-19, even after kids get vaccinated. After the older kids were vaccinated, I feel like, America sort of relaxed a little bit. And I'm hopeful we can do better after we get the young kids vaccinated, and we can all continue to be vigilant to drive down community spread to the point where we are in low transmission consistently, so that we can be as close to normal as possible. So it's not just about getting the kids vaccinated, it's about all of us doing everything we can to allow schools to continue to be open as possible. So we all have a role to play, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to provide that encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members? Okay, we'd like to announce our upcoming meetings. Our education meeting will be held Wednesday, November 3rd at 6 p.m. We have a policy committee meeting on Wednesday, November 3rd as well at 7:15 p.m. or immediately following the education committee meeting. And then we have our finance committee on Wednesday, November 17th at 6 p.m. And our next legislative meeting will be held Monday, November 22nd at 7:00 p.m. One last time for any additional comments.
Later this week, we have an opportunity for students to participate in some Halloween activities. Weather permitting, we make good on our promise to keep Fort Washington students together. Fort Washington students will celebrate Halloween, the other Halloween parade in Cardinal Stadium. And I want to thank the Fort Washington staff for their flexibility, because we know it's not easy for them to be dispersed among our 3 open elementary buildings.
Thank you. The time is 7:55. We want to thank everyone for attending this evening. This meeting is adjourned.